How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Basketball is back, folks. Today, the NBA rolls out their new season 2024-2025, and it's going to be exciting. The two most winningest cities in the history of the NBA will be hosting tonight as we have the Minnesota Timberwolves traveling to Los Angeles, and NBA history will be made as the first father and son duo play in their first regular season game together, the first time that has ever happened in NBA history. And we've also got history being made in Boston in the first game as the defending NBA champions drop their record 18th banner, hosting my New York Knicks, my new look New York Knicks. Two teams playing tonight against those two legendary teams, the Celtics and Lakers, have made a big trade. Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle make their debut for the Timberwolves. And Big Cat, Karl Anthony Towns, will be making his debut for the New York Knicks in Boston tonight. We got Daniel Nunez in the building. Good morning, my man. How you doing? Yeah, Nunez, our two teams open tonight. On today's show, we're going to be giving you a World Series prediction on my behalf. I'm giving you a full NBA preview, and we're going to talk about NFL's Week 7 that just passed. We're going to start it up with football, and we're going to ramp it up to baseball and baskets on the back end. Nothing necessarily new, but man, oh man, these injuries are just really sad. There's more and more injuries in and around the NFL right now. Yesterday, we saw Chris Godwin go down with only 30 seconds left in the game. Dislocated his ankle. He will be out for the season. His wide receiver mate, Mike Evans, injured his hamstring. The Godwin injury for Buccaneer fans has got to be infuriating because the chances of making a 10-point comeback with less than a minute to go are slim to none. So the fact that he was on the field in that situation and gets hurt the way he did has got to be maddening to the Buccaneer fans. And, you know, it could potentially be the final game of Chris Godwin's career because he is not a guarantee to come back to that organization in the offseason. So definitely a sad situation that went on in Tampa. Not something that you ever want to see. So I wish him his best, the best, in returning, hopefully, and resuming his NFL career and doing as well as he was prior to the injury because Chris Godwin was really playing at a high level prior to getting injured. And Baker Mayfield is going to have his work cut out for him moving forward now that Godwin is no longer in the mix. And Evans is going to be hurt as well. My apologies. I did not want to go camera mode today. Kind of got a late start. So my bad on that. I was actually just in the process of messing around with some of my backgrounds here. The injuries are just terrible. And I'll tell you what's also terrible is the behavior of the Cleveland Browns fans. As many of you know, Deshaun Watson was under much ridicule this year, given his accusations of sexual misconduct. Many of those matters were handled in payout situations. But at the end of the day, he's a football player and he's a human being. And when an entire stadium yells, "You deserve it," as he's visibly shaken up, literally crying, and it could be a career-altering injury, I just think that the Cleveland fans need to do better in a situation. I'm not saying you got to like the guy, but I thought it was really classless what the Cleveland fans did in that situation. As the game goes, Nick Chubb finally made his season debut, limited duty there, and the Bengals won a grind-it-out kind of game in a place that they have struggled to win. So it's a big win for the Cincinnati Bengals as they are going to try to redo their rough start to the season and keep pace with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens, after the 0-2 start, are looking like a well-oiled machine. They had a substantial lead in that Tampa game. The game kind of turned when Evans got hurt. But Derrick Henry has been such an addition to that Baltimore offense. And I really believe that they could very well be the team that poses the biggest threat to the world champion Chiefs. Of course, the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans are also considered strong teams in the AFC, but the Ravens were so close last year, and I think many would probably agree that the Ravens had the more talented roster. Yes, Deebo Samuel, another guy. Pneumonia's been going around. My little guy had it. My mother had it. It's been going around. Now Deebo Samuel has it. Water in his lungs. It's a little scary. So, yeah, prayers out to Deebo on a fast recovery. Fly, Eagles, fly. Nunez, I got to shout out your player, my former player, Saquon Barkley. Nick Sirianni, as always, does everything in his power to get under the nerves of the New York Giant fans and NFL fans alike. But what Saquon Barkley did, avoiding breaking his career best in terms of rushing, he only needed 13 yards to do so, decided to let the young guys play. And as he said, let the young boys eat. I think it showed a sign of mercy from Saquon and also a sign of respect for his former employer, the New York Giants. That was a game of two different teams going in two different directions. I have on my show said many a time that running backs for the most part are replaceable. But it's been a sore subject amongst Giant fans as we are off to a 2-5 start, and Saquon Barkley is poised to having his best year since his rookie year of 2018. First 7 carries of the game, Barkley was quiet, but he had 2 huge, massive runs as well as a muscle-down touchdown inside the red zone. And he was the story of the game before the game, driving into the stadium, seeing his jerseys getting burnt. But this is the kind of game from an emotional standpoint where you have the Giants being outclassed to the tune of a 28-3 loss where the defense just flat out got tired, that it does beg to question, will Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen be around after this? And quite frankly, I don't have the answer to that. I truly do not know. But I must admit that, in the immediate time after his departure, of course you're going to miss Saquon Barkley. I personally believe that the Giants could have kept him. And it's not so much the fact that he left or even went to a division rival. I think what Giant fans are upset about is that Joe Schoen just made it seem like losing him didn't matter at all. And, not every running back is created equal. But Saquon Barkley is of the upper echelon of the running backs, along with guys like CMC, guys like Derrick Henry. And there's not a delusion on my side that thinks that Barkley wasn't going to have a massive impact on the Eagles or that his loss wasn't going to be huge for the Giants, considering that he was such a huge part of their offense last year. But I think the part that hurts the most is that Daniel Jones, yet again, looking lost in a division game. The man hasn't thrown a touchdown at MetLife Stadium in over 600 days. And there is an injury clause in this man's contract. As some of you may know, the New York Giants can move on from Daniel Jones at year's end. But the thing that has me concerned is that if you keep marching out Daniel Jones game after game, and if he gets injured, the Giants are going to be on the hook for a lot more than what they owe him now. So that's something for the Giants to think about if they want to insert Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito. Drew Lock did not look any better than Jones did. And given that DeVito's short sample size had more success than failure, I actually think it would behoove the Giants to maybe just throw DeVito in there at minimum to see if he can be a solid backup quarterback. Because I myself, when we lost Tyrod Taylor, was not a fan of signing Drew Lock. Keeping it in the East, the Commanders, easy peasy win over the lowly Carolina Panthers. But it didn't come without a price, as Jaden Daniels did injure his rib cage. The veteran Marcus Mariota came in and played at a decent level. That's something to monitor. But The Commanders are in a good position because Mariota has played for a decent amount of teams. He's been through a lot of battles, and I think he is more than serviceable backup quarterback for the time being as the Commanders try to navigate an NFC East title. Going to just catch up on some of these comments that Nunez has flying in. Yeah, it was the best game the Eagles played all year. That's not debatable. Cowboys were on the bye week. Moving it in other places in the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers just cannot catch a break as Brandon Ayuk is done for the year with a torn knee. That is bad. What else is bad? Christian McCaffrey still hasn't played a game this year. And the injuries just keep piling up to last year's runner-ups, the defending NFC champions. Now, mind you, my preseason prediction had the 49ers going to the bowl, finally getting over the hump and beating the Chiefs. The way things are looking right now, it would be a stretch to think that the 49ers get out of the first round if they're lucky enough to win their division. Fortunately for the 49ers, the Rams have their share of issues, as do the Seahawks. So that division truly is wide open. And the Arizona Cardinals are just not there yet either. So the 49ers could conceivably win that division with a losing record. Buccaneers, Falcons. Buccaneers catch a break with the Falcons loss. That was a bit of a shocker. The Falcons coming out flat at home against the Seattle Seahawks. But the NFC South is going to be interesting down the second half because it's gonna take a lot with Baker Mayfield now having to throw the likes of guys like Sterling Shepard, McMillan, the rookie. They're going to have to get creative on offense. But I do believe that Baker Mayfield has been playing really good football, and I do think that the Buccaneers will persevere and get through this tough time. There's little to no resistance in that division from the Panthers and the Saints, so it essentially is a two-team race in the NFC South. The New York Jets won out and got Aaron Rodgers' old pal Davante Adams. They did have the lead at halftime, but were shut out in the second half. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been so impressive on defense all year. But now with the reemergence of the veteran, former Super Bowl champion Russell Wilson, it really looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers might be more than just a team that will make the playoffs. They may very well be a Super Bowl contender, as both they and the Baltimore Ravens are going to be fighting down the stretch for that North title. But that was undeniably the surprise of the game. I knew the Steelers' defense was going to show up. But a lot of people had the Jets winning. I was one of those people because I really felt that the Jets were desperate and really needed that win. But I did not have Pittsburgh scoring the amount of points that they did. And Russell Wilson looks like he's comfortable in that quarterback one position. And I do think he gives the Steelers the best chance to win on a week-to-week basis. So something to keep an eye on there. Also, player movement. Is Max Crosby going to get dealt? Is Myles Garrett going to get dealt? There's some big-name players that are on bad teams right now that could get dealt. So definitely something to keep an eye on. In the NFC North, the Detroit Lions, a team that Crosby could make a ton of sense for, gave the Minnesota Vikings their first loss of the season. And what's interesting is that just another Viking loss, and they could fall out to third while they are the last team to catch an L in the NFC. And that speaks volumes about that division. The Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers, the Detroit Lions, and the Minnesota Vikings all are very realistic threats to make the playoffs this year. So it is most definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I would have to say that the biggest disappointments in the first half of the NFL season, even though the Jaguars are coming off a pretty big win, I would have to put them at the top of that list because of the expectations coming into the year. I believe that they were supposed to be a much better team. I had them winning the South. They do not look good right now. Another team in the South, the Miami Dolphins, will be welcoming Tua Tagovailoa back. So all the fantasy heads who have the Miami players, guys like Tyreek Hill and Devin Achane in my big money league, I happen to have both of those guys. Don't panic yet. The numbers are going to get back to some relativity now that Tua comes back, and I wish Tua the best, staying upright and staying healthy. Other player movement that already went down. Amari Cooper found the end zone for the Buffalo Bills as after they got through a first half slumber, handled the Tennessee Titans. Josh Allen definitely in the MVP discussion. And now that they acquire a number one receiver, a sturdy guy that can actually replace Stephon Diggs, I think the Buffalo Bills offense is damn near complete. You got your slot man in Shakir. You got a quality running back in James Cook, and you have two viable backups there. You have two really good tight ends. And you have a rookie who's getting better week to week in Keon Coleman. Offensive line's been doing their job as well. If the Buffalo defense can stay around the middle of the league, I expect the Bills to make a deep playoff run this year. They have a look of a team that can do something. What's the weakness? What do I worry about in a playoff game? I worry about the kicker. Seeing Tyler Bass from time to time, I could see why he could give the fans from Western New York the Scott Norwood trauma nightmares. I think it's the Houston Texans division to win without much resistance in the South. They came off that tough loss to Green Bay. CJ Stroud had his worst game of the season, possibly as a pro. Keep your eyes peeled to see what happens there. But I must admit, they're going to have a relatively easy path into the playoffs because nobody in that division is really wowing anybody. The Colts are kind of a week-to-week team that is always tough to figure out. I already said the Jaguars are terrible. And the Titans are pretty bad too. AFC West, it's the Chiefs and everybody else. I will say that the Denver Broncos are making more strides forward than they are backwards as they've won 4 of their last 5. The Raiders are a dumpster fire right now. A complete, utter dumpster fire are the Raiders. I really like what Jim Harbaugh is doing. Jim Harbaugh. I like what he's doing with the Los Angeles Chargers. They are changing their style in a big way, taking the air out of the ball and really beating people in the trenches. And they have a very good defense. I think the Chargers are the kind of team that can go into somebody's backyard and beat them as a viable wild card in the playoffs. So the West could be sending 2. I only see the East sending 1. I think the Jets, while they might start playing better, it might be too little too late. I mean, they already got to go on a 3-game winning streak just to get back to 500. Some hot seat candidates. I get it. The Eagles are chasing the Commanders in somewhat of an off year for the NFC East. But in the NFC East, I see 3 hot seat candidates. Nick Sirianni, if the Eagles don't go far enough. Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen could both be out in New York, especially with the likes of a guy like a Bill Belichick available. Also, Mike McCarthy should and could be on the way out. Once again, a potential Belichick destination. Bill Belichick is going to coach somewhere or be involved somewhere, maybe in a GM chair in the 2025 season. So it's definitely something I want to keep an eye on. I would say a dark horse candidate to score the services of Belichick could be the Vegas Raiders because of the Tom Brady connection now. So that is something to keep your eyes peeled for. Moving it along to the NBA, going to start it up in Boston. New York Knicks making the trip, seeing the Celtics drop their NBA best 18th banner. There's ring night. It's going to be a joyful scene in Boston at the Garden. New look Knicks coming in with a very deep roster. They finally have that bona fide 1-2 combo in the scoring mix between Cat as well as Jalen Brunson. Knicks did lose Isaiah Hartenstein in the offseason, so they're going to be asking Cat to play big on defense in the middle. Also, Mitchell Robinson may miss the entire season. Dante DiVincenzo was out, as is Julius Randle. That was the trade-off to acquire the services of Karl Anthony Towns. But with OG Anunoby's new deal, with Mikal Bridges in the mix, and with Josh Hart coming in, I feel really strongly that this Knicks team has the depth, especially if Tom Thibodeau plays the numbers right, that the New York Knicks can very well make a deep playoff run. As the game goes tonight, I got the Knicks ruining banner night for those Boston Celtics. I got the Knicks winning tonight 116-111. On the West Coast, Bronny and his papa, LeBron and Bronny. First time in league history that a father and son duo will be playing in the same game as teammates. I've got the Timberwolves hanging close and ultimately winning a close one in Los Angeles. I've got the T-Wolves winning 107-104 I look for Dante DiVincenzo to stamp his way on as the sharpshooting threat that he is. I think Anthony Edwards is going to be a bona fide MVP candidate this year. Out west, couple of hot takes I got in the NBA. The addition of Russell Westbrook may very well slow down the Denver Nuggets and mess them up. If you look at his player trajectory and the places he's gone to the last few years, Russ has been more of a burden than a benefit for the teams he's played for. I don't see that being a difference in Denver. I think there could be some chemistry issues, some floor spacing issues, and I think ultimately it might bite Denver. Denver is a hot team in a lot of people's eyes to get back to the mountaintop. Although Nikola Jokic might be the best singular player in all of basketball, I don't see it. Other hot takes. I got the Orlando Magic getting out to quite a good start. I don't consider them a title contender yet, but with that very young roster, the Wagner brothers and such, I think the Magic are going to be a much improved team. Other hot take. I think Jimmy Butler is going to get traded this year. I don't think the Miami Heat want to commit to him given his age, and I do think that they're going to look for a substantial package to move him. I also think that Giannis might leave Milwaukee for Orlando. I think Orlando is the kind of city where Giannis can potentially thrive. Other hot takes. While the Philadelphia 76ers are very talented, with Joel Embiid, I don't feel all that great about the not playing back-to-backs. I think that could mess up the team chemistry, although individually he might have a great year. Paul George is already dinged up. That leaves Tyrone Maxey as their main man. I got the Sixers as a lower half playoff team in the East, but not being a title contender. My three big title contenders in the East this year coming in, it's the Celtics, it's the Knicks, and it's the Pacers. It's the Pacers because of coaching, and it's the Knicks and Celtics purely driven because they are the two most talented teams in the conference. My way too early Eastern Conference predictions for the finals. I've got the New York Knicks narrowly escaping the Boston Celtics, 4-3. I've got the Knicks as the 1 seed. I got the Celtics as the 2. Out west, the Oklahoma City Thunder were exposed last year as a 1 seed because they were not tough enough in the middle. They went out and got Isaiah Hartenstein, the former Knick. Is he the missing piece to get them over the hump? I'm going to politely say no. I think they're going to be a good team. They might even be the 1 seed yet again. But my pick to win the Western Conference this year is not the Dallas Mavericks. It's not the Denver Nuggets. It's not the Los Angeles Lakers. None of those teams. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota Timberwolves, New York Knicks, NBA Finals, Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle going back to the place that made them bigger stars. And I've got the New York Knicks winning their first NBA title since 1973 and breaking that generational hex. Basketball is back, and I am really excited. I am really looking forward to it. Going to wrap things up with my World Series prediction. My New York Yankees heading to Los Angeles to take on the Los Angeles Dodgers, the two best teams in each league all year long for the most part. Garrett Cole getting the ball, game 1 for the Bombers. I'm going to tell you what I like about this matchup, talking about the series on the whole. While I think the Dodgers have the edge offensively, player for player over the Yankees, I don't think anybody is rocking a big three right now like the Yankees are in the form of Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, and Juan Soto. I also believe that the New York Yankees have found quite the formula working in their bullpen. Couple of guys that are going to be X factors in this series should the Yankees win. Look no further than Jazz Chisholm Jr. He is going to have to step up his game in a big way. He has not had a very good playoffs, and offensively, we're also going to need to see Austin Wells step up. On the opposite side, for the Los Angeles Dodgers, you know what you're going to get with Shohei, Betts, and such. The guy that truly concerns me, two guys that concern me on the Dodgers. Number one is the health of Freddie Freeman. Prior to being X'd out because of injuries in that Met series, he has not been hitting well. And the big the big trade deadline addition, Flaherty, coming off a rough start most recently. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to bring. I think Yamamoto is going to be on his game. This is what Major League Baseball wants. Tommy Edman, I see Nunez just dropped him in the comments. I'm going to get these comments caught up in just a minute. Tommy Edman's been a great, great addition to the Dodgers. But when I look at paths to the World Series, how difficult things were for each of these participating teams in the Fall Classic, I tend to think that the Dodgers have been through a lot more than the Yankees have in terms of being tired, being fatigued, and being pushed. The Yankees, although it was a very tough series, were able to get out of that Cleveland series in 5 hard-fought games. The Mets did take the Dodgers to 6, and the Dodgers were pushed to the brink of elimination in their very first series against in-state rival San Diego. The lights have never been brighter. You've got probably 5 of the top 10 baseball players, and you might have 1, 2, and 3 in the form of Ohtani, Judge, and Soto in this series. You got Freeman, you got Betts. This is a star-studded series, through and through. Possibly the best pitcher in the American League in the form of Gerrit Cole. This is going to be awesome. I like that the Yankees have 3, 4, and 5 in the Bronx. I like that a potential 6th and 7th game are in LA. Why am I comfortable about this? I'm going to tell you why. The New York Yankees have played great away from Yankee Stadium all year long. They've carried that over into the playoffs, and part of being a champion is playing at a super high level on the road. I got the New York Yankees in dramatic fashion winning this series 4-3 over the Los Angeles Dodgers. And with the exception of the nights that Gerrit Cole and Yamamoto pitch, I am imploring pretty much anyone who messes around with under-over totals of baseball games to take the over in most of these games. I think the Dodgers pitching is a little sketch right now, and that is part of the reason why I think the Yankees are going to be able to break through. This is going to be a phenomenal series. A phenomenal series is what I'm expecting. And this could be the last chance for certain guys. There is a distinct possibility that Gleyber Torres will test the free agent waters and will not be back with the Yankees after this year. Anthony Rizzo might go back to Chicago. I don't necessarily think it's likely that he returns. Alex Verdugo, this might be the end of his rope with the Yankees, being that Jason Dominguez is waiting in the wings. And when you traded for Jazz Chisholm Jr., I do think there's a distinct possibility that he could be the next second baseman should Gleyber move on. Oswaldo Cabrera, it's a mixed review if he is an everyday player, but I do expect him to get some action at third, especially if they move Torres, because that would open up second for Jazz. Yankees in 7, winning their MLB Best 28th World Championship. Is it too early to give a World Series MVP? I don't think it is. Give me Juan Soto. Give me 4 home runs and 13 RBIs. He is going to stud out in this series. I also think Aaron Judge is going to hit much better in this series and kind of get some of that pressure off his back. And you can directly thank Torres, Soto, and Stanton for making that possible. Daniel, you mentioned that you wanted to make a friendly wager on this series. I am game. Hit me with a figure and we'll discuss it. Until next time, I am your host, Richie. I appreciate you taking a small part of your Tuesday and hanging with me. The Fall Classic begins on Friday night. NBA back in session. Knicks Celtics, Wolves Lakers tonight. Have a great day, everyone.